Hello, and welcome to video where a man who knows nothing about comic books tells you whether a comic book movie is good or bad. The Batman came out, right? And it faced the unique challenge of, living in the shadow of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. But here's the good news. Not only is the Batman good, even if I do have problems with it, which we will get to soon, but it manages to step out of that shadow in even the smallest ways. For example, Nolan's Batman is typified by you never seeing him come or leave, he's just there, but Pattinson's Batman has these iconic footsteps that you always hear before he arrives out of the shadows. I really loved that. More importantly though, the Batman really leads into the detective noir side of Batman stories with clues and leads and interrogations and mysteries and conspiracies, that sort of thing, which I think is fantastic. We've never really had that, not to the extent that we get it in the Batman, and I think that really helps it set it apart tonally and aesthetically and the feel of the story. The film is also unashamedly a comic book film. One of Batman's opening lines is, "I am vengeance." And the suit is campy, and Catwoman has this literal balaclava with little cat ears, and Pattinson is brooding and dark makeup. It's just great. It's very comic booky, because all of this means that the Batman just feels different to the films we've had before, So it's a detective neo-noir film, but is it a good detective neo-noir film? Sometimes, sometimes it's clever. Like, for example, there's this clue where it's like URL errata, and you figure out that eventually it's a reference to a website, and I didn't pick that, which felt dumb, but I should have. But again, sometimes it treats Batman like a freaking genius for figuring out the most basic, fortune cookie riddles. It is, at its heart, a functional mystery, and it's a fun ride to go on, but I'm not sure that it's the type of mystery where if I watched it through again, I would pick up on a whole lot of really cool details, that gives me that second viewing experience, which, to me, is kind of the test of a really good mystery. I did figure out that Renewal, this program created by Thomas Wayne, was probably a bad thing, that it wasn't what people were saying it was, really early on in the film. But that's not because, it's too obvious, it's because of the cinematic language. Tip, if anything is on a newspaper or on the news in the background of a scene, it's never a coincidence, it is always foreshadowing. The real strength of the film is that the Riddler is a fantastic adversary. It constantly feels like he is a threat, that he is in control, and that Batman, even if he's figuring stuff out, is always a few steps behind. He consistently has the upper hand. I did have to laugh when they said that the Riddler has 500 followers, Can you imagine the Riddler doing a Raid Shadow Legends sponsorship in the middle of one of his murder broadcasts? I'll kill this man, just like you'll kill the heroes in the castle if you click my link down in the description. The Batman isn't really a whodunit story, which kind of disappointed me because I was under the impression that because the Riddler was wearing a mask that he was going to be revealed to be someone. And that never happened. And that's fine, that's more a personal thing. I don't think it needed that, but I will mention one gripe that I have with the Riddler, despite thinking that he was a fantastic antagonist, is that I really don't like psychopath villains where their only way of showing that they are a psychopath is that they will suddenly explode in anger and yelling. The only way that they show that they're unhinged is that they can't go a full sentence without going from 1 decibel to 100. I loved Moriarty from Sherlock, and he did that too, but it is a little bit cringy, and it happened a little bit too slingshotty, too much back and forth for me in the Riddler. The Riddler was the most imposing when he was just that shape on the bridge at the funeral, or when he was just a cursor on a computer screen going, "Have you figured it out yet?" There's a silent coolness to that that's really threatening, that makes him feel in control, and I'm more afraid of people who look like they're in control and have the upper hand than people who seem unhinged, because unhinged people you can exploit. So I wish they did more of that. But this does lead me on to another massive strength of the film. It is very cohesive. Everything in the film fits together wonderfully. The whole mystery and what is uncovered is intimately tied to Batman's arc and his desire for vengeance and fixing the city. as a way of continuing his father's legacy in a way, grappling with what that means, who he is as a Wayne and who his father was. And in turn, that also really connected to Catwoman's arc, which has a lot to do with vengeance as well, bringing these two characters who are on similar trajectories kind of into a head as they evolve in different ways. Catwoman and Batman both end up in the exact same moral position. They discover that Falcone is responsible for the death of a loved one, the impetus for their anger, and the question is, how do they deal with that? And they deal with it differently. There's this symmetry, but also this dichotomy that's quite interesting. So the deeper sense that everything is really connected means that it felt well thought through, and I think that's great writing. I had a really positive experience with the film, and there was only really one thing that when I walked away from the theatre, and days on, am still thinking about, that I didn't really like was the stuff that happened after they caught the Riddler and they exposed Falcone. They got him arrested by the good cops, you know. Basically, it is then revealed that the Riddler inspired his 500 followers to destroy Gotham City by flooding it biblical style, to wipe away the corruption. But this suddenly turned what was a subtle neo-noir detective mystery story into a save the city story. And I didn't gel with that vibe as much. The sudden escalation in the stakes didn't sit right with me in this film. But also because Batman's arc was kind of meaningfully finished by this point. He chose to not kill Falcone, to rise above vengeance, and I'm not sure the stuff that these final beats did for him really fit. You know, Catwoman had also finished her arc, just in a negative way, because I have a sense that that is kind of her character. There's this scene at the end, after the flooding has happened, where he gets out a flare, and he is a light in the dark, and he leads these people out in a sort of religious procession, almost. And then he's seen, in the light, helping people onto stretchers. It is a little bit funny. It's a little bit of that campiness. It's weird to watch in a way. But I think for me, that felt like a Batman arc for the sequel. You know, the arc for this one was him rising above vengeance, and then him grappling with what he should actually do in the light rather than in the dark. I think sounds more like a sequel arc that they should have developed more. It just didn't feel like the natural culmination of this story for me, but who knows, maybe I'm wrong. I also just wasn't a big fan of the sequel bait with the Joker in the prison. It's just, if you want to give us the Joker, just do it in the next film. I've never been big on sequel bait. But none of this means I did not enjoy the film. I really did, and I recommend going to watch it if this is your sort of thing. I will also note that it's aesthetically just beautiful. Like, my jaw dropped when I saw Bruce Wayne's gothic architecture home. It is stunning. The whole film looks gorgeous. It's done so well. I don't know who does that sort of thing, but it's beautiful to watch. And it looks so much nicer than, in my opinion, any of the MCU films, you know. The last thing that I want to mention is that there is this one moment where he's escaping the police and he jumps off a building and Batman just totals himself on the bridge. Look out for it. It is really funny. It seems tonally just way off from the rest of the film. It's like slapstick comedy. But I did love that he got beat up as well. Like, he's not invincible in this film, which I think is really cool. He's not untouchable anymore. Anyways, I give Batman a B out of 10 for Batman. Bye. Also a B for bye.